Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that thrives on noise, drama, and emotional reactivity, there is a quiet kind of strength that is often overlooked, the strength of calm, composed power, no reaction, no drama, just power. These aren't just words, they're a mindset, a code, a way to move through the chaos of life with control, with confidence, and with purpose. We live in times when outrage is fashionable. Social media rewards outrage, anger, and impulsive reactions, but real power doesn't flinch, real power doesn't scream, real power doesn't need to be loud to be effective. When you choose not to react, you choose wisdom. When you walk away from drama, you step into clarity, and when you remain steady, grounded, focused, you become unstoppable. You see, true power lies in knowing that you don't need to match the energy of chaos. You don't need to defend your worth, your peace, or your direction with noise. You just need to know who you are, know what you stand for, know what deserves your attention and what doesn't. So today, I challenge you to embrace this strength. When tension rises, hold your ground. When someone tries to provoke you, smile inwardly and choose silence. Not because you're weak, but because your energy is far too expensive to waste. In life, we often face situations that trigger us a rude comment, a broken promise, a stressful deadline, or a betrayal from someone we trusted. The immediate instinct is to react, to snap back, raise our voice, defend our pride, or let the emotion take over. But in that moment of reaction, we are no longer in control. We've handed the keys of our emotional state to someone else or to an external event. That is not power, that is submission to impulse. Power begins with awareness. The moment you feel your heart race, your breath quicken, or your mind spiral into 1,000 angry thoughts, that's the precise moment where strength is tested. Those who are truly powerful recognize this pause, the space between the stimulus and the response, and they use it wisely. They take a breath, they observe, and most importantly, they choose their response rather than being ruled by it. That is the essence of self-control, and it's the foundation of real power. When you control your reaction, you control the narrative. Think about it. The person who stays calm while others lose their composure instantly commands the room. They aren't swayed by pettiness or provocation. Instead of adding fuel to the fire, they neutralize it by refusing to give it oxygen. This ability doesn't just preserve your peace, it shifts the dynamic in any confrontation or conflict. It shows that you are grounded, that you are not easily shaken, and that you value long-term impact over short-term emotion. Reactions are often emotional reflexes. They're fast, unfiltered, and driven by ego. Responses, on the other hand, are thoughtful, intentional, and rooted in clarity. When someone criticizes you unjustly, it's easy to fire back, but restraint, the decision to listen, evaluate, and respond only if necessary, is what elevates you. That restraint is not weakness. It's a conscious choice to stay above the noise, and in doing so, you demonstrate a level of emotional intelligence that few possess. In professional environments, this skill becomes even more crucial. Leaders who react impulsively often lose credibility. They erode trust and create instability. But leaders who respond with measured calm gain respect. They make others feel safe, heard, and guided. Their emotional control becomes a source of inspiration, not intimidation. They don't panic under pressure, they pivot. They don't retaliate in conflict, they resolve. And in that poise, they show what power truly looks like. Controlling your reaction also protects your mental energy. Reacting to every annoyance, every offense, every opinion is exhausting. It drains your focus, fractures your peace, and scatters your attention. But when you train yourself to let go of what doesn't deserve a reaction, you free up space mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You become more centered, more focused, and far more effective in every area of your life. You're no longer a puppet to the world's chaos you're anchored. This control, however, is not automatic. It requires training. Just like physical strength, emotional strength must be built through repetition. It comes from the small moments choosing not to reply to a snarky comment, stepping back before sending an angry message, breathing through discomfort instead of reacting impulsively. These choices, repeated daily, build inner muscle. Over time, they become second nature, and eventually you'll find yourself unfazed by the very things that once triggered you. In a world where everyone is reacting, those who pause, reflect, and respond with purpose stand out. Their power is quiet but unmistakable. It's not about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself. That's the highest form of power there is, because when you control your reaction, you don't just change the outcome of the moment, you change the direction of your life. Drama is everywhere. It's in workplaces, friend groups, families, online spaces, and even within our own minds. It feeds on tension, exaggeration, and emotional chaos. But what's most dangerous about drama isn't how loud or messy it is, it's how quietly it derails us. It can start with something small, a misunderstanding, a rumor, a passive-aggressive comment, and before we know it, we've spent hours, days, or even weeks consumed by something that holds no real value. That is the nature of distraction, its seductive, time-consuming, and ultimately empty. When we engage in drama, we lose focus on what truly matters. Our energy gets siphoned off into conflicts that don't serve our growth, conversations that lead nowhere, and emotional cycles that repeat without resolution. The more we feed it, the more it demands. And while we might think we're asserting ourselves, defending our position, or standing up for what's right, the truth is that most drama isn't about resolution, it's about reaction. It's a loop designed to keep us engaged, not empowered. Drama thrives on ego. It wants us to feel offended, attacked, important, or wronged. It pushes us to prove something to be right, to win an argument or gain approval. But in chasing those validations, we often lose sight of peace. We start defining our self-worth by how well we can out-argue someone, how quickly we can clap back, or how many people take our side. This is where distraction turns into dysfunction, because once your self-esteem becomes tied to how you handle drama, your energy becomes tied to it too. There's a high cost to staying involved in drama. It taxes your emotional well-being, clouds your judgment, and fractures your time. You begin to live in reaction mode, always responding to the next slight, the next conflict, the next dramatic episode. Instead of building your life, you end up managing the chaos around it. Your goals sit on the shelf while you attend to other people's narratives. And perhaps worst of all, you begin to normalize the noise, mistaking drama for connection, thinking conflict equals meaning. To live powerfully, you must learn to discern the difference between real problems and distractions dressed as importance. Not every argument needs your input. Not every situation requires your opinion. Some things are simply not yours to carry, and when you begin to pull your attention back to what fuels your purpose instead of what feeds your ego, you start reclaiming your time and your life. That's where real power begins to build, not in controlling others, but in choosing what you give your energy to. Avoiding drama doesn't mean being passive or weak. It means being selective. It means knowing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. It means understanding that your mind is a limited space, and what you fill it with will shape your future. When you walk away from drama, you're not walking away from courage, you're walking toward clarity. You're choosing to invest in your vision rather than someone else's chaos. This decision isn't always easy. Drama can be addictive, especially when it masquerades as passion or loyalty. Sometimes it feels personal, and other times it's socially reinforced people expect you to participate. But leadership, maturity, and wisdom often require doing what's right over what's popular. That includes stepping back, staying silent, or even removing yourself entirely when necessary. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but over time you'll realize how much lighter and sharper your life becomes without unnecessary entanglements. By choosing not to engage in drama, you begin to live on a higher frequency. You conserve your emotional energy. You create space for creativity, problem solving, and meaningful relationships. You become someone whose presence brings calm, not chaos, someone whose time is spent building, not battling. And when others try to pull you back into the noise, your silence becomes your shield. You don't need to prove anything. Your peace is your power, and drama has no place in it. We live in a world that constantly tells us to speak up, to assert ourselves, to respond quickly and loudly to anything that threatens our comfort, our pride, or our identity. But sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is the one you don't voice at all. Silence, when used with intention, is not a sign of weakness, it is a declaration of strength. It says, I am in control. I do not need to explain myself. I will not be pulled into a game that does not serve me. There's a difference between silence born of fear and silence born of confidence. The former is suppression, the latter is power. When you stay silent not because you can't speak, but because you've chosen not to, it signals an unshakable sense of self. You don't need validation. You don't need the last word. You don't need to win every argument to know your worth. That kind of silence is commanding. It leaves people wondering, thinking, and reevaluating because it breaks the pattern they expect. In conflict, silence can be disarming. People often expect retaliation. They want a reaction, a rise, an emotional outburst to mirror their own. But when you respond with composure, or no response at all, you rob their drama of its fuel. You maintain your dignity while allowing the situation to deflate under its own weight. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your peace than about feeding cycles of negativity. Your silence is a wall they cannot climb, a calm they cannot shake. Silence also speaks volumes in moments of tension. In conversations where everyone rushes to speak, the person who pauses, listens, and chooses their words carefully often commands the most respect. People begin to lean in when you don't fight for attention. You become someone whose words are not just noise, but impact. Your silence builds anticipation. It creates space for reflection, both for yourself and for others. In that space, insight grows, and from that insight, clarity emerges. Silence is also a protective boundary. It allows you to retreat inward, process what's happening, and respond from a place of intelligence rather than impulse. It gives you room to breathe and think before you act. In a world that rushes to judge, to label, and to speak, the person who pauses is seen as thoughtful, measured, and wise. That pause, that quiet, can shift the energy in a room more than any shouted opinion ever could. It's not that you don't have fire, it's that you've mastered how to direct it. Moreover, silence can be an act of resistance. In situations where your presence alone is enough, words may become unnecessary. Sometimes your refusal to engage speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. It says, you do not control my attention. It says, I will not dance to the beat of your insecurity. And in saying nothing, you say everything. People may try to provoke you, bait you, or twist your words, but when there are no words to twist, their efforts collapse. This power also extends to relationships. Not every disagreement needs to become a debate. Not every offense deserves a reply. Sometimes the strongest way to protect your peace and reinforce your boundaries is simply to walk away not in anger, but in quiet resolve. Let them wonder why. Let them feel the weight of your absence. Words can be argued with, but silence, especially silence paired with calm detachment, cannot be reasoned away. It becomes a mirror, forcing others to confront themselves. Ultimately, silence allows you to operate from a place of control rather than chaos. It allows you to observe instead of being consumed. It teaches patience, discipline, and perspective. You learn to speak not from your wounds, but from your wisdom, and only when it's truly necessary. That's not passivity, that's precision. In mastering silence, you don't lose your voice, you refine it. You don't disappear, you become undeniable. Because in the stillness, your presence is louder than words could ever be. We often hear that time is our most valuable resource, but there's something even more sacred, our energy. Unlike time, which ticks forward at the same rate for everyone, energy is deeply personal. It fluctuates based on our thoughts, emotions, and the people we interact with. You can't buy more of it. You can't borrow it from someone else. And once it's drained, productivity, focus, creativity, even joy begins to fade. That's why learning to protect your energy is one of the most critical forms of self-mastery. Every interaction is an exchange. Whether you realize it or not, you're constantly trading energy with your job, your relationships, your environment, even your inner dialogue. Some things replenish you, while others deplete you. The problem is, we often spend this energy on things that offer no return. Arguments we didn't need to have, opinions we didn't need to prove, people who don't value our presence. And just like with money, careless spending leads to emotional bankruptcy. The truth is, not everything deserves a response, a reaction, or your attention. When you treat your energy as currency, you begin to make smarter decisions about where it goes. You ask yourself, is this worth the cost? What will I gain by engaging here? Will this contribute to my peace, my purpose, or my growth? Most of the time, the answer is no. And learning to walk away, stay silent, or simply observe without becoming emotionally invested is a powerful shift that saves you from unnecessary exhaustion. People who waste your energy are like emotional pickpockets. They don't just take your time, they drain your clarity, your patience, your self-worth. Some do it with conflict, others do it with drama. Some are always in crisis mode, needing you to rescue them. Others subtly erode your confidence with criticism, competition, or guilt. The stronger your boundaries, the better you protect your energy from these hidden costs. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They let in what nurtures you and block what doesn't. Social media is another place where energy is often spent recklessly. Scrolling for hours, engaging in debates with strangers, comparing your life to highlight reels, these small moments accumulate into a large emotional debt. You log off feeling more anxious, less focused, and emotionally taxed. But when you become intentional following people who inspire you, setting time limits, refusing to argue with anonymous profiles, you reclaim that power. It's not about avoidance. It's about discernment. Even your inner dialogue can become a drain. That voice in your head that constantly criticizes, doubts, or replays painful memories, it can consume your energy faster than anything external. That's why it's so important to practice mental discipline. Speak to yourself with respect. Redirect negative thoughts. Don't give your energy to imagined failures or hypothetical fears. Every time you refocus on what's real, what's productive, and what's possible, you're reinvesting your energy in your own well-being. It's also crucial to recognize what restores your energy. It's not always about sleep or vacations, although those help. It's also about doing things that bring you peace and fulfillment. Quiet mornings, meaningful conversations, creative outlets, time in nature, reading, prayer, movement. These are not luxuries. They are necessary deposits into your emotional bank. When you begin to notice how certain people, places, and habits affect your energy, you gain clarity on what to prioritize and what to let go. Ultimately, every day is a series of choices, and each choice is an investment. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. The more you protect it, the more you have to give to what truly matters. That's how you build a life of substance instead of chaos. That's how you grow not just in productivity, but in power. Because when you stop giving energy to things that drain you, you start fueling the things that elevate you. In the past, strength was often measured by how loud you could be, how aggressive you were in pursuit of your goals, or how quickly you could dominate a conversation or a room. But the definition of strength has evolved. In a complex, interconnected, emotionally charged world, the greatest strength now lies in emotional intelligence, the ability to understand, manage, and navigate both your own emotions and the emotions of others. It's not about overpowering people. It's about understanding them, leading them, and most importantly, leading yourself. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. You can't manage what you don't recognize. Many people walk through life unaware of how deeply their feelings drive their behaviors. They react, they lash out, they avoid, they suppress all without truly knowing why. But those with high emotional intelligence pause and ask the deeper question, what am I really feeling right now? Is it anger or fear? Is it sadness or disappointment? That level of awareness gives you power, because clarity always precedes control. Once you're aware of your emotions, the next step is self-regulation. This is where real strength is revealed. Anyone can get angry, anyone can yell or blame, but staying calm when provoked, being patient when frustrated, holding your tongue when every part of you wants to argue, that's power. Emotional intelligence gives you the tools to respond instead of react, to think instead of explode. It's not suppression, it's strategy. It's learning to honor your emotions without letting them dictate your behavior. Equally important is empathy, the ability to step into someone else's shoes and see the world through their perspective. In today's world, empathy is often mistaken for softness, but it's anything but. Empathy builds bridges in moments when division seems inevitable. It allows you to de-escalate conflict, to listen deeply, to communicate with respect even when you disagree. That skill is invaluable in leadership, relationships, and community. People don't follow the loudest voice, they follow the one that makes them feel seen and understood. Emotionally intelligent people don't just manage their own internal world, they influence the external world with intention. They know how to create calm in a storm, how to redirect tension toward resolution, how to speak truth without causing unnecessary harm. They can navigate high-stress environments without breaking down or lashing out. This makes them invaluable not just at work, but in families, friendships, and every circle they move in. Their presence becomes a form of leadership, even without a title. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional intelligence is the strength to let go. Letting go of the need to always be right, letting go of the urge to get the last word, letting go of resentment even when it feels justified. These are not easy choices. They require internal fortitude, humility, and vision. You have to be strong enough to see the bigger picture, to realize that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every wound is worth reopening. Emotional maturity means you choose peace over ego, growth over revenge. People with low emotional intelligence often live in cycles of blame, defensiveness, conflict, and regret. They don't understand why relationships fail, why teams fall apart, or why their stress never ends. But emotional intelligence breaks that cycle. It creates space for healthy communication, mutual respect, and personal accountability. It allows you to build connections instead of walls, solutions instead of arguments. And in doing so, it elevates not just your relationships, but your entire life experience. As society progresses, the need for emotional intelligence becomes more urgent. We live in diverse communities, fast-paced workplaces, and digital environments where tone and nuance are easily lost. The ability to read a room, understand intent, manage your emotions, and respond with empathy has become a superpower. It determines how far you'll go, how well you'll lead, and how much peace you'll carry. Emotional intelligence isn't just a soft skill anymore, it's a hard requirement for a strong, impactful life. In a world that constantly rewards speed, noise, and visibility, stillness is often misunderstood. People associate stillness with passivity, with inaction, with being left behind. But in truth, stillness is one of the most underutilized forms of power. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing everything with intention. Stillness is where clarity lives. It's the space between stimulus and response, the silence between notes in a melody, and when you master stillness, you master the moment, you stop reacting, and you start directing. Stillness doesn't mean you don't feel emotion. It means you don't let emotion control your expression. You can be angry and still calm. You can be hurt and still composed. This self-control is not repression, it's refinement. It's the ability to sit with your own discomfort, to observe it, to understand it, and to choose what you will do with it. That choice, the power to respond, not react, is what separates people who live in chaos from those who live in command of themselves. Our culture glorifies movement, hustle, grind, always doing, always proving, but constant motion without direction leads to burnout. It makes people feel busy but not fulfilled, active but not aligned. Stillness, on the other hand, invites introspection. It asks, why am I doing this? Is this the right path? Is this reaction necessary or just habitual? Without stillness, we live on autopilot. With it, we begin to live with purpose. It becomes the space where decisions become aligned with values rather than emotion. Think about nature. Some of the most dangerous animals move the least. They conserve energy. They observe. They strike only when necessary. Their stillness is not laziness. It is lethal precision. Likewise, when you embrace stillness, people often underestimate you. They mistake your calm for weakness, your silence for ignorance, your non-reaction for indifference. But in reality, stillness is a decision. It is you choosing to hold your position instead of being pulled into someone else's chaos. Stillness is also a psychological edge. When you are unshaken in the face of provocation, you force others to confront their own instability. You become the anchor in the storm. In arguments, the one who stays calm wins, not because they dominate, but because they remain grounded. Your ability to stay centered, to breathe through the noise, to maintain internal peace even when the outside world is messy, is intimidating. It shows that you are not easily manipulated, that you are governed from within. There's also great wisdom that emerges in stillness. When you stop rushing, you begin to see, patterns become clear, motives are revealed. You start to notice the deeper truths behind people's words and actions. You notice your own triggers, your own blind spots, your own growth edges. That awareness sharpens your judgment and refines your direction. While others are scrambling and shouting, you're studying and positioning. That's the strategy of stillness. It gives you the advantage of foresight. Stillness also reconnects you with your inner compass. In the noise of daily life, it's easy to lose touch with yourself, to start making decisions based on fear, ego, or the expectations of others. But when you become still, you can hear your own voice again. You can listen to your intuition, your truth. You return to your center, and from that place you make moves that are not just reactive, but revolutionary. You begin to build a life that is in rhythm with your purpose, not the world's pressure. Ultimately, stillness is an act of rebellion in a world that wants you constantly reacting, scrolling, comparing, and chasing. It is you choosing sovereignty over stimulation. You're not frozen. You're not indecisive. You're watching, waiting, aligning, preparing, and when you do move, it's not frantic or fragile, it's focused, it's effective, because stillness doesn't mean you're doing less. It means you're doing what matters most, at the exact moment it matters most. We often associate power with volume, the loudest voice, the biggest presence, the most commanding tone in the room. But real power, the kind that lasts and influences, doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to scream to be heard. True power moves in silence, with quiet confidence that speaks for itself. It is the calm in the chaos, the steady hand in the storm, the grounded presence that doesn't seek approval because it already knows its value. Quiet confidence is not the absence of power, it's the purest form of it. Quiet confidence doesn't need to dominate others to feel strong. It doesn't need applause or validation to feel worthy. It arises from within, born from deep self-knowledge, from lessons learned through challenge, from integrity that doesn't bend with public opinion. A person with quiet confidence can enter a room and shift the energy without saying a word. They don't chase the spotlight because they are the light, subtle, unwavering, and constant. Their strength comes not from what they say, but from who they are. This kind of power is deeply rooted in self-assurance. It's not arrogance which needs to be fed constantly, but certainty. It's the calm knowing, I don't need to prove anything because I know what I'm capable of. That mindset is unshakable. It allows you to make decisions without over-explaining, to walk away from disrespect without drama, to let others underestimate you without needing to correct them. Quiet confidence doesn't play games. It doesn't need theatrics. It simply stays grounded and lets the results speak. People who possess quiet confidence tend to be excellent listeners. They don't speak just to fill silence or dominate a conversation. They listen, observe, absorb. They watch how people behave, not just what they say. And when they do speak, it carries weight not because they talk the most, but because they talk with purpose. Every word is chosen. Every message is intentional. In a world full of noise and ego, their restraint becomes a superpower. Their presence is felt because their energy is focused. This quiet strength is especially powerful in leadership. Great leaders don't command with fear or volume, they lead with clarity, calm, and confidence. They don't micromanage or shout instructions, they lead by example. They take responsibility, show up consistently, and stay composed in crisis. Their people trust them, not because they're loud, but because they're stable. Quiet confidence fosters loyalty, respect, and admiration not because it demands it, but because it earns it. Quiet confidence also changes how you handle criticism and praise. When you're rooted in your own sense of self, you don't overreact to judgment, and you don't chase compliments. You take feedback constructively, but you don't let it define you. You're not on an emotional roller coaster every time someone doesn't like you or when someone flatters you. You maintain internal balance because your worth isn't up for debate. That internal stability is rare, and it radiates strength in every interaction. In relationships, quiet confidence creates safety. It doesn't compete, it doesn't compare, it doesn't manipulate or beg for attention. It offers presence, consistency, and respect. It's not performative, it's authentic. When two people both possess quiet confidence, the connection becomes a space of growth rather than insecurity. There's no need to prove dominance or constantly affirm egos. Instead, there's mutual trust, peace, and shared progress. That's the foundation of something lasting and powerful. Ultimately, quiet confidence is about mastering your internal world so thoroughly that the external world doesn't control you. It's about walking into situations with your shoulders back and your head high, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're at peace with yourself. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to let go. This kind of confidence doesn't fade because it's not built on appearance or approval. It's built on truth, discipline, and self-respect. So when we say no reaction, no drama, just power, we're not talking about apathy or avoidance. We're talking about choosing depth over noise, intention over impulse, and mastery over mayhem. We're talking about the kind of strength that doesn't flinch under pressure, doesn't need to be seen to be felt, and doesn't trade peace for attention. This is power that doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't shout, it resonates. It doesn't fight every battle, it wins the ones that matter. In a world constantly pulling you to react, to defend, to over-explain, your greatest leverage is stillness. Your highest currency is energy, and your sharpest weapon is calm. Because real power isn't about dominating others, it's about having complete authority over yourself. It's knowing who you are so deeply that no situation, no person, and no narrative can shake your center. So stand in your quiet strength, choose peace without apology, let others spin their chaos, you stay grounded in your purpose. You don't owe anyone a reaction, you don't owe anyone a performance. All you owe is the truth of who you are. That is power, and that power is yours.